Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for November 26, 2021, The Corruption Goes to Hollywood edition. And we begin with that story as House of Cards creator Bo Willimon is to develop a series based upon Malaysia's 1MDB corruption scandal. Willimon and his Westward producing partner Jordan Tapas have teamed up with SK Global to produce the show about the $5 billion corruption case based upon the best-selling book, The $1 Billion Whale, The Man Who Fooled Wall Street, Hollywood, and the World. So, a little corruption in Hollywood. Next up, Interpol, the once great international police organization, has sunk to a new low as it has elected an Emirati official accused by human rights groups of involvement in torture, defying objections from Western officials who say the authoritarian governments have exploited Interpol for years. Red notices are now the ubiquitous tool of authoritarian regimes. So Interpol becomes much less effective yet again. Next up, from TheComplianceLady, a first-time contributor to the Daily Compliance News, 3 Swiss-based subsidiaries of the Dutch group SBM were ordered to pay $7.5 million by the Attorney General of Switzerland for failing to prevent corruption. In a press release, OAG said the 3 companies failed to take all reasonable operational measures to prevent bribery of foreign officials in Angola, Equatorial Guinea, and Nigeria. This is a rare action by the Swiss Office of Attorney General. The misconduct occurred between 2006 and 2012, and the fine and penalty were based primarily on the seriousness of the offenses, the lack of organizational response to damage caused, and the financial capacity of the companies. Finally, the Swiss are showing an appetite for prosecuting companies, as noted by the Compliance Lady, and this is in addition to the penalties leveled by the U.S. Department of Justice on the same conduct. And finally, from Swissinfo, ex-Credit Suisse bankers says the bank still aids in hidden accounts. They've told criminal investigators that the bank is still helping U.S. clients hide accounts from the U.S. Internal Revenue Service, even after the bank paid some $2.6 billion in penalties in 2014 and promised to stop the practice. If this is true, it's a serious breach of the DPA, but once again, this information was given in Switzerland, so the Swiss authorities seem to be taking money laundering more seriously.
The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.